How scary is Level 1 combat readiness? China has launched Level 1 combat readiness many times. Why did it do so each time? In this video, let us learn more about it. When Chinese soldiers retire, the most common thing they say is, if there is a war, we will be recalled. But you know what? What does it mean when all the veterans in China are recalled? If all active military personnel in China are on standby 24 hours a day, all cutting-edge weapons can be deployed at any time. The recall of all retired soldiers means that China has entered a state of first-level combat readiness and can launch a nation-breaking war at any time, and the entire country instantly becomes a war machine. For those of us living in a peaceful era, war has long become a thing of the past. If it weren't for the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Palestinian-Israeli war, no one would have imagined that one day they would be able to watch a live broadcast of a war. So this makes people wonder, what will it look like when China enters the first level of combat readiness? China has activated Level 1 combat readiness 6 times in its history. Who were they all for? Dignity is only on the edge of the sword, and truth is only within the range of the cannon. In the international community, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. A country's sovereignty and territorial security must be guaranteed by strength. China never causes trouble, but it is also never afraid of trouble. A reporter once asked China, how terrible is it for China to enter Level 1 combat readiness? Experts say, 26 missile brigades are on standby at any time. China will never fire the first shot, but it will never let the enemy fire the second shot. China has a total of 4 levels of combat readiness. This is divided according to the severity of the military threats China faces. The smaller the number, the stronger the level of combat readiness. In other words, Level 1 combat readiness is the strongest combat readiness. Once the level of combat readiness is entered, it means that war may break out at any time. The enemy has arrived at its doorstep, and China will mobilize the whole country to deal with the enemy and defend the country. All industrial enterprises were converted into arsenals to produce military products and ensure military logistics. All veterans and reservists are recalled, vacations, discharges and job transfers are cancelled, and preparations for combat are quickly made. Active duty military personnel will form the first line of defense, and veterans will form the second line of defense. No one is allowed to ask for leave, and no details are allowed to be disclosed. If the country enters Level 1 combat readiness, everyone must be prepared. The soldiers charge in the front, and the people's protection comes in the back. The army and the people are dedicated to protecting their homeland and the country. In Chinese history, Level 1 combat readiness has been activated 6 times. What were the reasons for these 6 times? To deal with which enemy? The first time New China initiated the first level of combat readiness was to resist US aggression and aid Korea. At that time, although China defeated the Japanese and established a new country, the United States still looked down on China from the bottom of its heart. After the war broke out in Korea on June 25, 1950, they immediately intervened with armed force and spread the war to Asia, soon to reach China's doorstep. Of course, China cannot sit idly by and ignore such a naked provocation. Since the outbreak of the Korean War on June 24, 1950, China's combat readiness has experienced 4, 3, 2, and 1 changes. The US military had a good plan. While invading North Korea, it also wanted to prevent China's reunification and stir up trouble for China. On June 26, The United States dispatched the 7th Fleet stationed in the Philippines to invade the Taiwan Strait and blatantly interfered in China's internal affairs. Since August, the war has been burning at China's doorstep. U.S. military aircraft continue to fly in the airspace of the Northeast, and they also conduct reconnaissance, bombing and strafing of towns and villages in the Northeast. On September 30th, the U.S. military reached the 38th parallel between North and South Korea. At this point, the United States' intentions have become very obvious. On October 1st, the telegrams from Kim Il-sung and Stalin arrived in Beijing at the same time. Kim Il-sung sincerely requested the Chinese People's Liberation Army to directly dispatch to assist the Korean War. Under such an extremely severe situation, China made the great decision to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea. It can be seen from this that when China's national sovereignty, security, and people's interests are threatened, it is time to enter a state of war readiness. The second time China entered a state of first-level combat readiness was the shelling of Kinmen in 1958. After Chiang Kai-shek was defeated in Taiwan, he was always thinking about counterattack. The United States has always been hostile to the new socialist China, and they wanted to unite with Chiang Kai-shek to attack the new China. The United States and Chiang Kai-shek signed the Mutual Defense Treaty, which was an illegal military treaty. The United States attempts to split China, separate Taiwan, and create chaos. With the support of the United States, Chiang Kai-shek continued to transport weapons and troops to the Kinmen area, and the war was imminent. China immediately entered a state of first-level combat readiness and was ready to liberate Taiwan at any time. In 1958, Taiwan conducted military exercises in coastal areas, and the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China immediately ordered a counterattack. The People's Liberation Army Air Force and ground artillery immediately took action to blockade Kinmen. In less than 10 days, China assembled more than 200 fighter planes and 500 artillery pieces to seize air superiority over Kinmen with lightning speed. China clearly demands that the U.S. military withdraw from Taiwan immediately and Chiang Kai-shek withdraw from Kinmen and Mazu, otherwise they would fight to the end. The United States not only insisted on fighting, but also sent 430 fighter planes and more than 60 ships to assist the Kinmen battlefield, but it still ended in failure. The mainland adheres to the principle of single attack, double attack, that is, shelling on odd days and no shelling on even days. The shelling of Kinmen lasted for a long time and did not stop until the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and the United States. The Soviet Union was China's big brother. But don't forget that during the late Qing dynasty, Russia shamelessly carved up 1.64 million square kilometers of China's territory. In the face of interests, friends are not reliable. Since Khrushchev came to power, the Soviet Union has repeatedly attempted to invade China and has also requested the establishment of weapons bases within and outside China. This undoubtedly damages China's national sovereignty. In 1959, the Soviet Union withdrew all experts and destroyed all information about the atomic bomb, and China and the Soviet Union officially became enemies. From 1964 to 1968, the Soviet Union deliberately provoked Chinese border fishermen and border guards on the Sino-Soviet border, killing and injuring many people. And despite China's solemn warning, it sent troops into Zhenbao Island and declared war on China. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of China ordered the country to enter a state of first-level combat readiness, and all troops immediately prepared for combat and entered the battlefield. The Soviet Union threatened China with its nuclear weapons. But Chinese soldiers are never afraid. In just 9 hours, Chinese soldiers successfully repelled the Soviet troops. Soon the Soviet Union counterattacked for the second time with tanks. The People's Liberation Army used flexible tactics to defeat a reinforced Soviet regiment with 1 battalion, captured a tank, and killed more than 200 people. The People's Liberation Army won this self-defense counterattack and told the world with a victorious attitude that China would protect the country and its people at all costs. The 4th time China entered a state of first-level combat readiness was due to the death of Chairman Mao Zedong. The Party Central Committee was afraid that foreign forces would take the opportunity to cause chaos. 1976 was a sad year. In this year, China's great leader Chairman Mao Zedong passed away. Also leaving in the same year were Premier Zhou Enlai and Marshal Zhu De. The Chinese people are plunged into great sorrow. On the 2nd day after Chairman Mao's death, Marshal Yi Jianying immediately notified all members of the military commission to hold a meeting. After discussion, everyone decided to activate the national first-level combat readiness state. However, this time the Level 1 combat readiness state did not encounter war, and leaders from various countries expressed condolences for the death of the chairman. Leaders of more than a dozen countries came to the embassy in person to lay flowers and observe silence in front of the chairman. The 5th time that China has initiated a Level 1 combat readiness state is a self-defense counterattack against Vietnam. When President Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam was still there, the relationship between China and Vietnam was still good. However, since the death of President Ho Chi Minh, Sino-Vietnamese relations have deteriorated. When France and Vietnam were fighting, China sent military advisors to help Vietnam. During the Vietnam War from 1955 to 1975, China also sent troops to assist and provided more than $20 billion in financial assistance. But in 1975, Vietnam began a large-scale anti-China campaign. They openly tore down national boundary stone monuments and attacked border soldiers and civilians. In 1979, Vietnam went so far as to send troops to occupy nearly 96% of the islands in China's Nansha Islands, a move that completely violated China's sovereign integrity. China immediately entered a state of first-level combat readiness, and its self-defense counterattack against Vietnam officially began. China quickly recalled 150,000 retired veterans in just 2 days, and China invested 560,000 troops in this battle. The Chinese army severely attacked the Vietnamese soldiers, and by March 16, the war came to an end. However, the Vietnamese army did not give up. Later, they frequently provoked troubles at the border, and the Chinese army launched rounds of border battles. By 1993, China's border defense troops returned to normal defense. The 6th time that Level 1 combat readiness was activated was the Taiwan Strait crisis in 1996. At that time, Taiwan's leader was Lee Teng-hui. He engaged in a series of actions to split the country, which had touched the bottom line of mainland China. At the same time, the United States is also causing trouble. They broke the ban on visiting Taiwanese leaders, which is tantamount to a disguised recognition of Taiwan's status. China has terminated all state visits to the United States and conducted 2 military exercises. After entering the first level of combat readiness, all soldiers immediately returned to their posts and retired soldiers were recalled. Military exercises are being carried out in the southeastern coastal areas, and war is about to break out. As long as Li Tinghui's behavior reaches the bottom line, the Chinese military will immediately fight back. On that day, all weapons and equipment were in place, and nuclear weapons and missiles had arrived at their predetermined locations. The missiles landed directly off the coast of Kaohsiung and Keelung. China is ready to turn exercises into war. Taiwan naturally saw that this time it was serious and did not dare to act rashly. Unexpectedly, at this critical moment, the American warships withdrew and the confrontation disappeared invisible. This act deterred some scoundrels and protected the country's sovereignty from being infringed. China's century-long journey in modern times was riddled with holes. Today's Chinese national dignity was earned with the blood and lives of countless patriotic soldiers. Today's world is still dominated by the jungle, which is the true law of the jungle. A country and a nation must dare to show their swords in order to gain national independence and peace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more great content. See you next time.